Hey guys, welcome back to Nature's Cadence Farm. We're going to work on the 97 Jeep Grand Cherokee today, and I've got some old brake rotors and calipers and pads in there, and I've had them, gosh, they've been in there for a long time. You'll see when we get in there. It's got a lot of grooves on the rotors, and obviously you can see Malibu, he's going to come help me today. So that's nice, and so yeah, let's get in there. I've got kind of the tools laid out. It's a pretty simple job, and I'll show you what's going on. Here's the rotor here, and you can see it's pretty groovy, man. It's been on there a long time. It's very thin. These pads, I'll pull those out and show you when I pull the caliper, or the caliper off. But here's what you're going to need. I've got kind of a little pry bar here to help things get moving, and I've got a 12mm wrench, 13mm wrench, 3/8, 9/16 combination wrench. I pulled the tire off. You can see I used my mid-torque Milwaukee Impact, which I love. Thank you, Milwaukee. For making these. Now I bought, everything here with my own money. I didn't, I'm not getting sponsored by anybody. But anyways, a 3/4 inch deep well gets the lug nuts off really well. So we've got to get the caliper, the hose off for the caliper first, the brake hose, which is kind of back here. Hopefully you can see that, and then the caliper bolts that go to the caliper bracket, and then everything should fall right off. So let's get going with that. We're going to start with pulling the hose off here, and that takes a 9/16. I'm using a combination wrench. Don't want to wring anything off, tear anything up, because this stuff is old. So I'm just going to use this wrench to help give me a little bit more leverage to break it loose. There it goes. So that's nice. And then once it's broken loose, we can loosen it up. All right, I'm going to leave that hooked up for just a few minutes. Might want to grab a little catch pan or something to catch your brake fluid before it goes all over your driveway or wherever you don't want it. So while we got the wrenches out here, let's go ahead and pop the caliper bolts off. Got a 13mm, and we'll use the backup on that here too. Kind of a, it helps. Man, that thing is slick with that brake fluid on there. Just kind of helps give you a little bit more leverage. Alright, got that. Now I got the bottom one here. Now that I've got them broken loose, I can go ahead and just loosen these up with the just a single wrench. Got my caliper mounting bolts out. We're done with those. The new caliper comes with new mounting bolts, and we're going to use our persuasion tool here to compress the piston. There's a piston, on the back side of the caliper here that pushes and squeezes the brake pads against the rotor. But we're going to get in here and try to just pry a little bit just to compress it some. I'm not really worried about tearing anything up or breaking anything because it's all coming out of there. So you can get on the back side of the caliper, kind of pry it out of there. There it is. Nice. So, yep, got the caliper out, and there's where the mounting holes were for the bolts. We got those done. Now we can finished taking our bolt out for the hose. I did that because you know, it's a lot easier to loosen up while it's bolted in there. But I tightened it back down. I probably got it. There we go. It wasn't that tight. Probably just rusty from being installed forever. I think these are the original calipers. The Jeep has 222,000 miles on it now, so that's pretty impressive. And I don't need to keep this bolt either. The new calipers come with new mounting bolts. Yours might not, I'm not sure. I've got a rag on the ground there to catch all that gunk that's dripping everywhere. So what I'm going to do is grab the new caliper out of here. And the new caliper has a little plug on it, a little blue plastic plug, and I'm going to swap out the plug and put it on the old one so it kind of seals all that junk in there. These might not be the original calipers. I don't know. I don't remember changing them, but I very well could have. But I don't see any Chrysler markings on here. But there you go. I just put that cap back in there to keep, you know, brake fluid from dripping all over the box, the core return box. So let's go ahead and get this one put in there and get our new bolt. So the new caliper came with these new bolts with new copper crush washers, and so that's nice. It's a nice little addition, something else you don't have to buy. Yours might or might not come with them depending on your supplier. This was a wherever brand. I'm not gonna give you all the part numbers because, you know, every vehicle and it's sometimes funny, even the same year models can actually have different caliper numbers and everything. So just, you know, go to your parts store, they'll help you out, or go online. That's usually how I look for my stuff. But and then when I get them home, I like to check, you know, against each other to make sure they are correct. Side by side kind of comparison to make sure all the holes look the same and line up, all that good stuff. What I'm doing now, I'm just putting the new brake hose on the caliper, the new caliper. So get the bolt started by hand, and then we need to tighten it down now so it quits leaking all over the place and making a mess. I'm just going to snug it up there. I'll finish tightening everything up when I get ready to install it. Alright, well, I went off camera and I got my new rotor here cleaned off with some brake parts cleaner and a clean rag, and I got all that grease and grime off of there from where they manufacture these things. And I had some clean gloves on. Here we go. Alright, so we'll get the old rotor off. It just pops right off once you get the caliper out of the way. And got our new rotor here. Just slides right on there. So here's my new brake pads. I got the whatever golds, whatever, and here's the. So I'm gonna start with the inner brake pad, and I put a little grease on the inside of the piston here, and so that's nice to keep everything moving well. Then I'm going to use the push it down in there. Oh, there we go. It's kind of tight, but we got it. And then this pad goes on the outside here. And what I did before I got started is I kind of matched up these identifying characteristics of the pads so that they matched each side. So then you can just slip that right in. Now in the bottom here, you got to make sure the little grooves for the pads fit down inside of where they need to be, and you also need to take these slides and slide them back, that I didn't do, and that'll allow the caliper bracket to go in between the caliper and the slides there. Got to have everything lined up, the moon, the stars, and all, to get it on there. So these slides have to be back, these little slides, and then the two pads, they have to clip into the bottom of the caliper bracket like that. So these would be the pads, and the caliper brackets in the bottom. They just sit right down in there and kind of get everything lined up and slide it in there. So now we need to get our new caliper mounting bolts. We've got brand new ones here that came with the kit, and get those started. And the caliper remanufacturer went ahead and greased everything for you, so these will slide really nice. Get them started by hand so you don't cross thread anything. Now this is a 12 millimeter, where the old size was a 13, so I'm not sure why or whatever that they did that, but that's what they did. So we're gonna bleed the brakes now. I've got everything tightened up. I went ahead and tightened down the bolt for the brake hose. This is we're gonna use our 3/8 combination wrench, box end, open end wrench, and make sure that bleeder actually works. I'm just going to leave the wrench on there, and I'll show you my little trick I use for a one-man brake bleed job without using a vacuum pump, which I don't mind the vacuum pump. It works fine. I just don't have it with me. It's just not here. So this is what we're going to do. This is my little setup here. It's an adjustable broom handle or something that I've had, and let's see if I can show you how I do this without covering everything up. So I just loosen this up, and I can pump the brake and tighten it down. And what that does is it holds the brake pressure on there, so then I can go over here and open up the bleeder valve, and then I heard just a little bit of air pop out, and then you got to tighten that valve back down and back over here and repeat the process. So that's kind of how you have to do that. So you let the brake up, put that there, push down on the brake and tighten it up at the same time, and then it holds the brake pedal down for you. And then you come over here and open up the bleeder valve again. And I heard some more air come out. So you just keep repeating that process until you get fluid coming out, a good steady stream a couple of times. Alright guys, well thanks for watching, and hopefully this was helpful, and don't forget while you're bleeding to keep an eye on your reservoir here and keep that full, and brake fluid does eat paint.